Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video. Today we are deep diving into Victoria's Secret, which was once a fashion leader in lingerie and fashion clothing. I think most famously, I think it was known for like runaway shoes and brand image. But I have noticed that over the last decade, it has faced some stock price decline, some backlash, falling sales, like competition from other brands that are doing at a minute way better than what Victoria's Secret used to do. Now, in this deep dive, we are going to use the ValueSense, as we can see in front of us, to explore how the company is performing today and how the stock looks and whether it's a turnaround opportunity or a risky bet. And with me in my portfolio, I kind of have a little bit of a risky bet, especially with Rocket Lab, that at the minute is absolutely storming through. So we kind of like these type of companies. And as you guys know, I am quite new at looking at stock deep dives, so please leave a like, comment down below any feedback and any ways I can improve this for you guys to get something out of it and also help in your own portfolios. But please know this is not financial advice. I am just doing this just to look as how I would in investing into a company. So as we can see, we are in the company profile, and Victoria's Secret trades under the ticker VSCO. It's specialised, like I said, in lingerie, beauty products, and apparel. In 2021, it did spin off from L Brands to make it a standalone business, and that is where its downfall started. Today, it operates hundreds of stores globally, but a big part of the strategy is growing. And if we scroll down, as we can see, the stock price isn't. Now, okay, in 1 year you actually would have lost 9.6. Year to date, you'd have actually lost 45.5%. And in the 3 years and the 10 years that maximally it's been going, you can see the highs of $60, $70. It's kind of fallen all the way down now to the share price. About 22.3 to 22 has been the lows of 20 or 18, as we can see there in June 16, 2025. Now, this isn't actually quite good because if you want to invest in a company, you want returns from a company. And if we compare that to the S&P 500, yeah, you'd have got nearly 216% out of your money if you actually invested as Victoria's Secret came out, where actually the loss minus 48% of. So, isn't that great indeed? So if you put £100 into the market, you'd have actually got, what is it, 200 or $300 back, where you'd only have $60 in Victoria's Secret. So as we can see, the stock performance in the stock chart hasn't done quite well, but in the 1 year chart, what we're going to do, and we'll return back to the share price, you can see there's actually quite a lot of share drops, especially around earnings and announcements. And to be fair, the broader market has quite sold off quite dramatically. And, Victoria's Secret isn't gaining much revenue. It is to a point, but it is losing money. And I think that's what a lot of people are not enjoying. You don't want a company losing money that you're invested in. Now, if we can go and find over to the income statement, this is where I'm now going to be struggling to find it. There we go, income statement. So Victoria's Secret has generated a revenue of, where I could ever see it, there it is, £6.2 billion in February 2025, 6.1 in 2024, 6.3 in 2023, 6.7 in January 2022, and in January 2021 it actually gained 5.4. But as you can see, 2020, before the COVID era, it was doing 8 and 7 billion respectively. Now, that is very slightly down from, the 8 billions in 2019. We're actually at 6.2. That isn't. There's a lot of money, but in terms of running a company, it isn't the greatest in terms of what you kind of want. If I could try and go down to where the net income is. So as you can see, the net income here has drastically changed and very inconsistent. So in 2025, it was 165, 0.0. In 2024 it was 109, January 2023 was 348, and January 2022 was about 646. But in 2020 and 2021, even though it made a lot of money, it was actually in the minors of 897 and 72. So that means some quarters have been profitable, but margins are shrinking as costs rise. And as the company invests in its rebranding, it's going to be looking a bit very inconsistent. Now, if I can go and find the earnings per share, as we can see just below that, you'll notice they peaked right after the spin-off, and it kind of went down from there. It reflects both weaker sales and a burden of debt from separating from L Brands, which I believe, if we can, is it scrolling down a little bit further, in January 2025, it has actually got a lot more net debt than it actually has in cash and short-term investments. So that isn't the greatest thing. So if we go back to the balance sheet and we go down to the debt, long-term debt, as we can see, in 2029 it actually had 0. That's when it basically was rebranded. Now, the one concern for me is the debt. It still carries a meaningful amount of debt, which limits its flexibility, and the assets are fairly stable, but the liabilities remain high. Now, that means the management needs to be more consistent with cash flow to service this debt. However, I don't believe they are doing so, because the debt to equity ratio is higher than many peers in the retail space, which for an investor adds risk into investing. Now, this is where we can go over. So we're now at the valuation metrics. Now, what about valuation? Well, luckily, ValueSense actually gives us a set of metrics: price to earnings, price to shares, etc., which I'm very glad, because I wouldn't know how to actually work these out. So we're quite happy. Now, on paper, Victoria's Secret looks quite cheap compared to the broader retail sector. Now, but there's a catch. Cheap doesn't always mean undervalued, and sometimes the market is pricing in risk. Now, investors are essentially saying that, yes, the stock is inexpensive, but only because there is no confidence about the future growth. Now, this is where we can have a nice little look at the distinctive value. So the current share price is at 22.0. Now, the relative value is at 61.4, which is undervalued by 178.3%. Now, you're saying if I invest now, I could probably get the company's actually worth 178% more. Now, based on discount count flows and valuation models, it does calculate there's a fair value in this, and you could probably make some money. But the market isn't pricing that in, because the key point for investing is, if you believe in the turnaround, this discount could represent a high uprise, okay, an upside for your profit. But if you think sales are going to keep falling, then stock may actually still be overpriced, because the stock could even fall even further. So, the problem that I'm going to have with Victoria's Secret, and as an investor myself, is I need to do a bull case to a bear case. Now, the bull case is, do I believe the brand because it's still globally recognized and people know what Victoria's Secret is? Is that going to help itself turn it around? You can't imagine going to a high street and not seeing Victoria's Secret. That's what people want to see, especially people that love lingerie or have partners themselves that want to treat it. Now, the valuation models actually suggest this stock, like we said, may be undervalued. But the bear case is the market share continues to erode against other competitors. You've got the Kardashian Skims products, doing really well. Victoria's Secret has a high debt compared to others, and the consumer trends are shifting towards comfort, and especially away from what Victoria's Secret do. Now, this could be a classic turnaround story. A lot of upside potential, but equally a lot of risks. Now, I want to believe that Victoria's Secret can do so. And, you know, compared to others, Victoria's Secret is no longer the dominant powerhouse it once was. But, you know, it's telling investors that it's trying hard to reinvent itself. Do I believe it? Not at the minute. They have actually changed a few people in-house, but like I say, people who do believe in the rebound and turnaround may see this as a discounted opportunity, but those worried about debt, competition, and execution may view it as a value trap. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think Victoria's Secret is going to do a comeback story or a stock to avoid? Let me know down in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.